Hey there, rebbearshark here for therealtresllamas, and today we are coming back with more One Piece videos. So, a couple weeks ago, I made my Eustace Captain Kidd deck list, the aggro kid that kind of goes in and swings for a lot. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. And I said in that video that that was what I was running for the competitive season. And I was wrong. Like I said, I think Kidd is a really good deck. I think it is probably the best deck in the format right now, although the format's about to change. So we'll see how that works into OPO2, but I think he's still going to be super viable. The deck that I've been playing and I finally won a locals with is Doflamingo again, but I'm playing it a little bit different. So I decided to take a tech choice from Beats by Ash. If you haven't seen him, he's a great creator for this game. Go check him out. His YouTube channel is wonderful, and he plays Dofi, and I think the tech that he does is super interesting. So I kind of took his deck list and made a couple changes myself. So let's get into it. Let me show you what I did. All right, to start off, we will go through our searching package that we are running here. So we are running 4 copies of Perona. I think if you're playing Doflamingo, this is an absolute must. I think if you're playing blue, this might be an absolute must. 1 drop, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, place them in the top or bottom in any order. Easy, great, wonderful card. The next one is 4 copies of the 3-drop Doflamingo. It's a blocker that has the same effect on play. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Place in top or bottom in any order. A nice thing about this one is that it can be played off of your leader's effect. So if you see it in your top 5 and you kind of want to put it near the end of the top 5 so that you can hit it on the leader effect and rearrange again to get more value out of your leader. And the next searcher here is Sentomaru. We have 3 of him. This is the card that makes this deck so different, and playing it the way this deck is set up will allow you to flood the board against any of your enemies and get so much more value out of your leader, because you can play, after you have 6'd on, you can play 2 cards that don't come out of hand, so you don't lose counter on them, and you get a 6k body plus one of your 7 warlords. Super valuable. Sentomaru is great. I usually wait until I have 6'd on to play him, because then I can play him, get value out of him before he gets KO'd by a jet pistol or something like that. The one thing to keep in mind here, you don't have to rest him, which is really sick. The one thing to keep in mind is you do have to shuffle your deck after you find that Pacifista. So if you get yourself set up, make sure you use your leader effect before you use his effect. That's kind of a little sequencing thing that will happen. When I was playtesting online, that happened to me a lot. I would use this first. I'm like, I want to get this done. And then I forget entirely about it. The fact that now I don't know what the top card of my deck is. So those are our searchers. If you open one of these, you're going to be good. Ideally, you really want to open Perona and Sentomaru, or find Sentomaru on your first 5 cards. Or find Doflamingo. Any of these searchers would be great to start off your deck with, because the goal here is always utilizing Doflamingo's ability. You can run the Virgo tech, which I think is really good and really powerful, as well as running the 7 drops. You have the 5-7-9 curve, which is really good. The problem you run into there is you basically never get to use your leader effect until you've set up your board. And this lets you get 5 bodies on the board super fast. They're going to threaten your opponent and kind of keep them at bay. So we're going to go into some of our tech pieces here. These are some just value cards that you need in the deck. We are running 4 copies of the 6k attacker Pacifista. The blocker's fine. You can run as many as you want of it. I think this is better because it has counters, so if it ends up in your hand, it's fine. And it's 6k, so you can add 1 to swing 7, or you can even swing 6 if you're just trying to force a 2k out. Ideally, you want to swing 7 on 5, right? But the 6 can also take out some of the lighter characters that are going to swing 4k and need a Don, or like if you're playing against Zoro, you may have a 4k character that you're going up against that when you have Zoro's leader ability goes up to 5, so they don't need to Don it up. But Pacifista is great. It is a jet pistol target, unfortunately. We have 2 copies of the OPO1 Jinbei. This card exists into red and into green. It doesn't do much for purple, but into red you can bounce Nico Robin to the bottom of the deck. You can bounce Zoro to the bottom of the deck, which is super valuable, right? They play their Zoro, they may get 1 swing out of it. You can pull Jinbei out of your hand and bottom deck that Zoro so they never see it again. The problem is it has like no attack and has no counter. It can be played off your life. I didn't see it that way, but it is something that you can buff up to a 5k attacker if you need to. It's the same stat line as Perona, but it does have this really great effect. I'm only running 2 because it doesn't have counter, and we want to keep our hands full of counter in this deck. We don't have that many cards that are dead in hand, but having too many would be bad. The next is Alvida, 4 copies. She's a 2k counter, which is her primary role, but I've actually changed my mind on this, that it's not playable. I think this is super valuable going into red or green, similar to Jinbei and similar to Teach, you'll see as well. Its abilities, you may trash 1 card from your hand with Don 1 attached, and return one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less to their hand. So if you don't open Prona or Dofi and you don't draw into them, or you're on 2 Don and you don't do the same thing, this is a great first turn play that you're not going to waste, because if you put it out on the board, it can threaten to bounce a card. You may have to trash something from your hand, but you'll have a lot of ability to gain hand advantage in this deck, so I think it's a really useful card to play only on that turn. I would never play this outside of my 2 Don turn or my 3 Don turn. I would honestly maybe even risk my Dofi hitting 7 and gambling for another play, but that's negging a little bit. So I think this is really great for 2. Otherwise, you keep it in your hand for a 2k counter. And then we are running 4 of the Trafalgar Laws. Really just a cheap blocker. You don't want to set these up early because they can be taken out by Nico Robbins or tapped down by Okiku, things like that. You want to play this when you are later in the game and you want to protect some of your pieces, or you want to play it alongside some of the warlords you summon with Doflamingo to keep them protected instead of letting them die because they're rested and you don't want to count out of hand. So it's a good thing to protect other cards. It's not really here to protect your life. Law is really here to protect the other characters you're running and protect your life late game. If you drop like a 9-drop Mihawk, you'll on the 10 Don turn, you'll have a Trafalgar Law to put on the board as well to protect yourself. So those are all our utility pieces. Let's get into the 7 Warlords. That is the big thing in this deck. And we're going to go in order of, I think, the reverse order what you should play. So the cards I'm starting out with here are the ones I would ideally never play off of Doflamingo's effect, but if I had to, I had to. So Mihawk, it does fix your hand when 1 Don attached, but this is not a may, it's a must. So when you're attacking, if you have 1 Don on him, so if you try to go up to 7k or you go up to 6k, you have to draw 2 and trash 2, which is fine, but this deck doesn't need hand fixing that much because you're not really running so many cards that can't be countered. So ideally, I don't want to play him, I want to draw him to get the 2k counter out of him. We have 3 Teach. This bounces a 3 cost or less to hand. The reason this is next is really because it's just situational, right? You're going to want to bounce Okiku. You're going to want to bounce Nico Robin, but there aren't that many cards you really want to bounce back to hand because a lot of the 3 costs provide utility on play. You can also bounce blockers. That's nice as well, but you kind of have to think that through. I think this is nice to play if you get in that moment early on and you see a Nico Robin, you see an Okiku to slow them down 1 turn, or just hold on till late game. When you have your board set up and all the pieces are ready, you throw down a Teach 4/4 and you bounce their blocker out of the way to kind of do work and finish up the game. Next is our boy Gekko Moria, 4 copies. Moria is great because after you've countered out of your hand with Mihawk, or if you desperately need a Perona to restack your deck, or you want to get some counter back in your hand, you play this off the top. You get a 5k attacker that lets you pick up one of those cards. Super high value. Moria is great. This is where I differ with Beats by Ash and some other people. The next one I have 4 Bakuthal and Wakuma. This card is wonderful. This card with the Pacifist is incredible. If you don't have one in hand, though, playing it out is kind of risky because while I do think some people will play around it and try to avoid KOing it, sometimes they just don't care and they're like, fine, it's got to have it moment. We'll see if you have it. So Kuma's great. I think it is one of the best things to play off this ability. I don't think it's the best. The best in my mind is Boa Hancock. 4 copies. If you get Boa out, she will immediately be a target for anything, whatever, jet pistol, attack, whatever, and you can protect it. She draws you a card on attack or block, so it's just consistent card draw. You can keep protecting her, play down a Law and block for her, do anything. My favorite combo is when I play Hancock on Dofi's ability and have a Kuma with a Pacifista in hand. I'll just block with the Kuma, put a Pacifista down, and now Boa's still sitting there, and we're now threatening even more than we were before. So 7 Warlords. This is the heart of the deck, and this is what makes the deck so much fun. We have one more character left to talk about, and that is our boss monster for the deck. That is our 9-drop Dracula Mihawk. We're running 3. I'm running 3 because I really want to see this card. I know that I can shuffle and I can look through things. I just really want to see it, and I don't think having 1 in hand, getting stuck and drawing into 2 is the worst situation in the world. Now, Mihawk is very interesting because you want to play it, but you shouldn't play it when playing it leaves you kind of unprotected or unable to threaten lethal. It should really be like if you're playing into Kid and they drop a 7-drop Kid, Mihawk needs to come out to put that in the bottom of the deck so they can't do anything with it. Or you're playing into Red and they're playing a Luffy. You want to bottom deck that so you can actually put up blockers that can be useful, right? So Mihawk's great. Once you get on the board, it's just there to absolutely be a menace. I didn't play it into Blurple Kaido, and mainly because there's nothing I really want to put at the bottom of their deck. I would rather just keep swinging heavy hits and keep some Dawn up for my level up beams, which you're about to see next, or keep Dawn up to play more blockers. But Mihawk is crazy. It's super valuable to just bottom deck a card because there's no way for them to get it back. Right? If we, instead of bottom decking, we maybe throw to the graveyard, there's some graveyard recursion, right? You have Uta who can get some of the cheaper cards back. Bottom decking something means it's gone. Like, there's no way they're getting it back unless you're playing into green, and that matchup just ends up going forever, and they can maybe Bonnie it back in. But even then, it's going to take them a long time to do that. So, Mihawk, last character we're running here. The final card in the deck is my favorite event in OPO1, and that is Love Beam. Crazy 4K counter, as well as drawing a card when you have 3 in your hand. So this card could net you 6K of counter for 2 Dawn. Absolutely wild. Love Beam is crazy. I love this deck. Like I said, I think it's so much fun. I finally became a winner at my locals for it. I got my winner Luffy. I think this card looks silly, by the way. Just checking out his face, it just looks so silly to me. But I finally got this Luffy. I finally got a winner, and I've been, putting in the work to try to figure this game out since it came out, and I'm so excited for OPO2. And I'll probably be playing this deck into the online qualifiers. And obviously, we cannot forget the man himself, Don Quixote Doflamingo. When attacking with 2 Dawn attached, you may rest 1 Dawn, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a 7 Warlords of the Sea with a cost of 4 less, play it rested. So that's the big thing, right? Dofi is our boy, putting in the work. So like I said, I love this deck. I think blue is the most fun color to play with so far. I'm really excited for black. If you guys couldn't tell by my playmat, I am super hyped for the marine decks. I think that's going to be a really fun thing as well. But I think blue lets you kind of understand the ins and outs of the game and give you more ability to think through what you're doing. I'm super excited to bring you guys more One Piece content. Check it out. Keep watching the channel. We've got more and more coming. And I am going to definitely show you what OPO2 decks I'm running once we get them. So check out the full deck list. Check in the bio if you want to see it online as well. All right, here's the deck list laid out for you guys. You can see exactly what I'm running. I think the big pieces, like I said, are Sentomaru, the Pacifistas, and running these warlords and kind of getting them out and always using Dofi's ability every time you can and really only interrupting it if you need to do something specific. So thank you for watching the video. Please continue to support us, give us some comments, let us know what you want to see next, let us know what you're excited for about OPO2, and if you think Dofi really is a tier 1 deck. I think it might be, or at least tier 1.5. We just recorded a Commander video, our first time playing Commander as a team. Go check that out. It was really fun. I went wild and flooded the board like this deck does, and just absolutely overwhelmed them. So thank you guys for watching. We love all the people that came to watch. Join the alpaca and try your best every day like us. Peace.